Hi everyone, an honour to follow the engineers and doctors on the stage in this amazing movie, and thank you to the film producers for inviting me to talk today. And to end the session, because I think it's really, watching this hour of testimony of Dr. Siraj and Dr. Sanjay is a very difficult thing to sit with, and what we've witnessed for 2 years is like an abomination on our shared humanity. And it's easy to walk away and feel like, what can I do? I'm going to give a bit of historical context. The boycott, divestment, sanction movement is inspired by South Africa and their anti-apartheid movement. And there's lots of similarities between apartheid in South Africa and what we are seeing today in Israel and Palestine. And the anti-apartheid movement was one way the world put pressure to end that dehumanising system. It was a movement that was called for by South Africans to seek change in their country. And it was manifested in sporting boycotts, so the Springbok rugby team, everyone refused to play with them. We saw foreign banks calling in South African loans, supermarkets stopped selling South African goods, and governments stopped importing South African goods as well. And I think it's just really important to note that this anti-apartheid movement and boycott, divestment, sanctions was one of many acts of resistance. It was also coupled with protest, so the famous Soweto uprisings, and it was also coupled with armed resistance. So Mandela's ANC and other groups were participants in armed resistance, and together that brought down the end of apartheid. And this photo is from Pitt Street in Sydney, so there were protests back then as well. I guess in the context of Palestine, the material reality for Palestinians since 1948 and before is one of genocide, occupation and apartheid. This is a series of maps, like the furthest right is 1948 to today, and the green area is the diminishing lands that Palestinians have access to. That shows our genocide and occupation and apartheid in a map, but every Palestinian in this room and out there in the world has a very human story associated with that genocidal project, which was embedded in the founding of Israel, and which what we've seen at a catastrophic scale these past 2 years. So I, for one, am a child of a Nakba survivor. My mother was ethnically cleansed from her village. She was a baby being in her parents' arms, being removed from that village. And I guess at the same time as we've been experiencing that, we've also resisted our genocide, occupation and apartheid. And one of the ways we have done that is by asking the international population to participate in boycott, divestment and sanctions since 2005. So the past 2 years have been an absolute catastrophe. And it has come at a great cost to the people of Palestine. But I guess the one thing that I cling to, and I hope others cling to, is that the world is finally awake now. The list here is of organisations who have now declared Israel as committing genocide, apartheid and occupation. We have the United Nations Commission of Inquiry, Amnesty International, Oxfam, ActionAid, Human Rights Watch, Genocide Watch, and also Israel's own human rights organisation, B'Tselem. Also, we have seen around the world unprecedented protests and also successes of the BDS movement. So I've been going to protests for a long, long time. Never before have I seen 300,000 people walk across the bridge. So things are definitely changing, and the world is awake. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what BDS, boycott, divestment, sanctions, is in the context of some of our successes to hopefully inspire you to participate and shift the dial on what's going on in Palestine. So BDS is an acronym. B is for boycott, which is a decision not to purchase products or services complicit in Israel's unlawful actions. So these can include cultural boycotts, like the Sydney Festival boycott of 2022, where multiple artists withdrew their participation in the festival due to Israeli dance companies' sponsorship. And that has really set the scene for a lot of other cultural organisations to think twice about partnering with Israeli institutions. Boycotts can also manifest in the academic space. So recently we had a great success with UTS cutting ties with Israel's Technion. And then boycotts are also for us as consumers. So there is an active Boycott Caltex campaign and is one of the target campaigns of the broader BDS movement. And the next slide shows you other priority targets that the international movement has identified that we should all stop purchasing and participating in. So in addition to Caltex, you can see some IT companies, HP, Intel, Dell. Everyone should be swapping their soda streams for Soda Kings or other alternative providers out there. When looking at these icons of all these companies, it can feel really overwhelming, right? Like it's really evident that our whole economic system is enmeshed and profits from the genocide of Palestinians perpetrated by Israel. But I guess I would say we don't have the options to be overwhelmed. You find one or two that you can do and that you commit to that, and then you grow your boycotting and practice more ethical purchasing. It's really important to focus on those priority targets. Boycotts are only effective if it's like a mass mobilisation of people targeting a handful of companies. So we target those ones and then we move on to the next, which is the most impactful approach. So on to the D, which stands for divestment. This is about organisations, including superannuation companies, divesting their shares in companies profiting from Israel's occupation. So over the past couple of years, we've had countries like Norway and Denmark divesting their sovereign wealth funds. We've had local councils like the City of Sydney passing motions for divestment. And a focus for us at APAN has been a superannuation campaign where just this past year we've had 3, Hester, Vision and Australian Ethical, who have divested from their investments from Israel. So things are moving fast, but perhaps not fast enough, because the next slide is about sanctions, which is the S in BDS. And sanctions are actions that governments and international actors can take that restrict Israel's international citizenship rights until it complies with international law. So this includes actions like severing diplomatic ties, restricting military trade, and banning businesses with illegal settlements. So this photo is of some of the participants in the Hague group. We have 12 of those who have now implemented sanctions, countries like South Africa, Bolivia, Colombia, Cuba and Indonesia. We have some countries who have withdrawn their ambassadors, countries like Iraq, Libya and Jordan, and others are stopping military trade, such as Spain, Canada and the Netherlands are making moves in that space as well. The momentum is clearly not enough. And if I go to the next slide, the momentum is not enough because it's kind of taken 2 years for some of those countries to move, but also that Israel is still continuing its genocide and occupation. So regardless of our government's performative act of recognising the state of Palestine, and regardless of the so-called ceasefire, the material reality on the ground for Palestinians has not changed at all. So Israel has, just this past week, Israel has killed 242 people since the 10th of October ceasefire in Gaza. It started building a separation wall on stolen Lebanese land. It set fire to a mosque in the West Bank. This picture is of olive groves. There were unprecedented attacks by settlers on Palestinian olive groves this past October. And then also overnight, with the lack of humanitarian aid entering Gaza, people are still living in tents and winter and the flood season is upon them. So I guess I share that to say we can't take our foot off the accelerator. This is the time to participate. As the responsibility does not just sit with governments and corporations. While there is a genocide, occupation and apartheid, we all have an obligation to act. And we here in this country in particular, with the levels of freedom that we have, with the levels of privilege, When something of this scale is happening in the world, the onus is on all of us to participate. So I've got 3 pretty clear actions that you can all take home with. So firstly, commit to not purchasing from the 12 priority targets. This QR code here, it will take you to a really easy email that you can send to your super company to ask them about their investments, and then also to keep turning up to protests and keep writing to your MPs to demand sanctions. And I guess I would say that the change that we will see in Palestine is very much connected to us. We are the change we need to see, and it happened in South Africa, and we will see an end to genocide, apartheid and occupation in Palestine as well. Together, if we keep protesting and implementing it, we will have a free Palestine. Thanks so much, everyone.